Welcome to The Plant Report, a radio show that educates about the green world one plant at a time. The Plant Report is a new educational resource about plants, herbal medicine, ethnobotany, and the human-plant relationship. Listen to our podcast, read our blog, watch our videos, and learn from experts and the plants. The Plant Report is a project of Sustainable World Radio and is hosted by Jill Cloutier. Thanks for listening to The Plant Report because every plant has a story. Our plant today is durian, also known as the king of fruits. To learn about this controversial fruit, whose aroma is so pungent it's been banned on the Singapore Rapid Mass Transit System, we're joined by Lindsay Gasik. Lindsay is a fruit journalist and author of the book, The Durian Tourist Guide to Thailand. Lindsay is also a Durian Travel Agent, we'll learn more about that in this interview, who spent a year following the ripening durian fruit across Southeast Asia. Welcome to The Plant Report, Lindsay. It's so great to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
I'm really excited too. And just so the listeners and you and I are all on the same page, can you give us the Latin name of this plant that we're going to be talking about today?
I believe we're primarily going to be speaking about Durio zibicinus, although there are 27 species of durian, and I work with about 11 of them.
So 11 out of 27. I can't wait to learn more. Yeah. And for people who have never seen a durian tree or fruit, can you describe the tree to them?
The trees are awesome. They're one of the tallest trees in the equatorial jungle, and they can live over 200 years. In fact, the old tribes used to use them to mark their territory because they could pass down these trees through the generations. And that way they could figure out, whose land belonged to who and pass stuff down to their children. And so you have these really ancient old trees, and they would also give the name of the person who planted it to the tree. And so that's partly how they would remember their heritage.
Ah, that's amazing. What a great honor for the tree and the person.
Yeah.
And they're long. It sounds like they're very long-lived.
Yes. So they would live hundreds of years. We're actually not sure exactly how long a durian tree can live, by at least 200 years.
And are they rather tall trees, large?
Yes, they're emergents. So when you go to the jungle, they're the tallest tree. They come up out of the canopy. So they're probably 150 to 200 feet tall at their biggest. And they look beautiful. When you're walking through a grove of durian trees, you just feel like you're some kind of tiny gnome, because they get huge and they have these buttresses that come out. And so the tree might take, 10 people to put their arms around.
That's incredible. And I know the durian's famous for its fruit. And if the trees get so tall, how do you actually harvest the fruit from so high?
So the cool thing about durians is that when they are ripe, they fall on their own.
Which, since they're covered with spines, is that a problem? Has there ever been death by durian?
Oh, yes. Actually, I have a post on my blog called Death by Durian, and I keep track every year of how many people have died. It's a little bit of a morbid fascination here, but I keep track of it, and it's about 6 people per year.
Oh my gosh, but that's not many. But so for people who don't know what this fruit is like, can you describe why we're saying it would be dangerous to fall? They're covered with spines, right, or thorns?
Right, so durian actually means thorn in the Malay language. Duri is thorn. And these fruits are anywhere from about 3 to 10 pounds. So the small ones would be about 3 pounds. The big ones can be 10, or I've even seen a 22-pound one.
And
they
huge.
Are covered, I know, it's insane. But they're covered in these thorns, and they're very sharp, and they're so sharp that even if you're just carrying them, if you have them in a plastic bag and you're carrying them, they will scrape up your calves so you look like you've been scratched by cats.
Oh my gosh. And
they're very sharp.
And yet people still love them. And you were introduced to durian, and I read on your website that the first durian that you tasted was in Oregon. You lived in Oregon, and it was frozen. It cost $13, and you couldn't open it. And that doesn't sound like the most auspicious beginning to a relationship with durian. Did you have any idea from that first bite of frozen durian that this fruit would change your life?
No, but there was sort of, talking about auspicious beginnings. before I tasted the durian, what inspired me to do it was I went to this sort of hippie vegan event where people were eating durian and I could smell it. And I didn't know what that smell was. You know, it has a very pungent, strong aroma. And to me, it wasn't disgusting. I was never disgusted by the durian smell. I just thought it was kind of odd.
Hmm.
And so I was asking people, what is this thing? And they're like, oh, it's durian. It's this like huge fruit that grows in Asia and it kills people and by falling on them. And, it's spiky. But they told me it was like a drug. They were like, this fruit, it makes you feel good and it will change your life, right? Like I had this old hippie guy tell me this fruit will change your life. And I was like, fruit. Like, I'm curious now. So I definitely wanted to go try it. And that was what inspired me to go to my first Asian grocery store just looking for durian. I'd never been into an Asian grocery store before. And so I found this durian. I took it home. I hacked it open with the biggest knife I could find because I had no idea how to open it. And it did end up changing my life, obviously.
And it changed your life so much that in 2012, you embarked on the Year of the Durian. It was a 12-month sojourn around Southeast Asia. And I think you were following the ripening durian fruit. Can you tell us about that? How did you go from hacking it open with a knife in your kitchen to packing everything up and traveling around in search of durian?
Well, it actually wasn't in my kitchen. I took it to the park because I was so afraid of the odor. But it was fine. But I guess, it's hard to say, like I graduated from college during the recession. It was really hard to find a job. There was just nothing out there. And so I found myself with some extra savings from college because I got a scholarship and I didn't use it all. And I didn't know what to do with myself, right? My options were, I was working 4 jobs, none of them good. I was doing like after school daycare. I mean, it was not really a fun time. And my dad suggested I go travel. And then I happened to find out about this thing called Durian. It was during this time period. And I also found out about the Durian Trail. And the Durian Trail is this idea, and I wasn't the first to do it, but you can actually stay in the durian season, like while the fruits are ripening, if you move from country to country. And it has to do with the monsoon season in Asia. So it depends on when it rains. The durians need dry season to flower and then fruit. And because the monsoon moves in this circular pattern around Southeast Asia, you can move yourself and stay with durian all year. And I was a really big fan of books by like Michael Pollan and Mary Roach and these kind of nonfiction adventure books. And during this period that I was having trouble finding a job with my college degree, I read Adam Gollner's The Fruit Hunters. And I would say that was the second thing that triggered me. It was like I tasted a durian. I read Adam Gollner's book. My dad told me to go travel. I found out about the Durian Trail and I went. So that was kind of the story. Yeah.
Did you ever have that type of experience with fruit before durian where you tried it and just were so fascinated and interested, or is durian the only one that you've had that experience with?
Well, since durian, I've definitely been interested. I was always been interested in fruits. I worked on a blueberry farm before I left Oregon. But durian was kind of what got me interested in like the science behind fruits and also like that relationship that we have with fruits, because people get weirdly obsessed with durian. I mean, the people that I met who are into durian, like these are durian lovers, right? Like there's this guy who for last 7 years can't go to sleep at night unless he eats a little bit of durian.
Hopefully he lives close by a durian
He
tree.
does. He's moved his entire life to the Philippines. He's a guy from Oregon, actually. He moved his entire life to the Philippines just so he can eat durian. And you just meet these people who have taken their whole lives, revolved it around durian now, and like these people who, I mean, it really is something drug-like about it. It's kind of bizarre. And that's one of the things that made me so interested in it, because usually we don't get so passionate about fruit. In Malaysia, it's a thing that at nighttime you go out with your friends, you go to these small restaurants and stalls where you sit down, you have drinks, and you eat durian. Like there are restaurants dedicated just to durian.
And is there something to the durian high that people talk about? Can you feel it?
I would say so. Yeah, I definitely feel it. if you eat a lot of it, right? I mean, I don't know what it is exactly. No one's really like pinned down what chemicals happening there, what kind of, serotonin rush or something like that. But I would say there's definitely something to it.
Interesting. And so durians are well known for their aroma, and there's countless videos online of people actually eating durian. And it has been described as smelling like hell and tasting like heaven. Do you think this is an accurate description is that your experience with durian?
The smell was never put off me. I never found it repulsive, and a lot of people I know who like durian also had that experience where the smell has never been a big deal. It is a strong aroma, especially if you go to a place where the tropical sun has been beating down on old durian shells for days. Yes, the smell can be, but that's just rotting fruit. Any rotting fruit is horrible when you smell it. But yeah, there's something to that. And it takes people sometimes a few tries to taste the durian and get over that smell before something about the way they connect with it in their brain changes their perception of the aroma, and then they like it. I've seen this a bunch of times. It's always really interesting, but it seems like it takes about 3 times before people who don't like the smell, suddenly something switches and they like it.
I wonder why and how the plant evolved to have such a strong odor. I wonder what the advantage was to that.
So from what I understand, there's two like main groups of durians, and they're pretty different. I mean, you can totally see the resemblance, but one group definitely evolved to be distributed by birds. And these ones have really brightly colored flesh, like red or bright orange or yellow or something like that. And they also have this weird habit where they open on the tree, like they have these little seams, and it's called dehiscing. They like open on the tree, and then they like drop out all their flesh onto the forest floor, which is like really annoying if you want to like eat them because they get all like messy. But the other group, they actually fall off the tree, and then they're not very colorful, and they release this really strong aroma, which is supposed to be for mammals. So we are their seed dispersers.
Speaking of drawing mammals to the plant, what is the pollinator for durian flowers?
Mostly bats.
And do they bloom at night
Yeah,
then?
they do. So they have beautiful flowers actually, like really intense, and they have a really strong aroma as well. But they mostly release their pollen at night, so it's mostly bats and beetles, which has been really interesting. I don't know if you know about the environmental issues going on in Asia right now, but they're really struggling with losing their bats.
And that must be having a major impact on many plants, including durian.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. They're
Mm.
having to switch to hand pollination in a lot of cases, which on really big trees, as you can imagine, is a big deal.
And are the bats suffering due to lack of habitat?
I think it's mostly, I mean, definitely lack of habitat, but then probably it's pesticide use.
Mm. Ugh, that's so sad, huh?
Yeah, yeah. But Malaysia has the highest deforestation rate in the world right now. So
I know, and you traveled to many, many countries on the Durian Trail, and I want to talk about that, but I had a couple more questions about durian
hmm
in specific. So, durians are an unusual fruit, and I think they're high in both sugar and fat, which doesn't often happen in fruit. Can you tell us a bit about how they
right.
are nutritionally, how they stack up?
That is one of the most interesting things about them is that they are this combination of sugar and fat, which puts them about on par with like ice cream. I mean, like a lot of people really compare them to ice cream because they have that really creamy texture but the sweetness. So, but actually people think durians are higher in fat than they actually are. They actually only have about 30% calorically from fat, which puts them about on par with like a soybean or garbanzo bean. So they're pretty low fat for how creamy they taste. They, as far as things that are really good about them, they have a better glycemic index than rice or bananas. So if you're someone who's diabetic and you're worried about your glycemic index, you should be eating durian before rice or bananas. They're really high in vitamin A. Let's see, they're really high in vitamin C, which really surprises a lot of people. There's a bunch of really cool things about them nutritionally, but really they just haven't been explored that much. That's one of the most interesting things to me about durians is there's just this huge open opportunity to explore them scientifically. Their chemical constituents. Obviously, they're very weird and very interesting. They have over 200 chemical volatile aromas, but there just hasn't been that much work with them.
It's really a wide open
Yeah,
field.
it really is. And so I think that's partly why I found my niche. I just found something that no one else was really exploring or doing yet. And it happened to be a really weird, interesting, delicious fruit. So why not? Why not go for it?
That is great. And so you followed a fruit to explore other places in nature. And was durian a good entryway into other cultures?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say it was just an amazing bridge to connect with people because on the one hand, Westerners are known for being squeamish for durian. Like there's sort of a perception in a lot of countries that as a Westerner, as a foreigner, I am unable to like durian, right? And so when they would see me at these places, like I would go to stalls, I would go to farms, I would go to restaurants, where they specialize in durian, and I would be like the only white person. And so people would just want to talk to me. As someone who's kind of shy, this is like really good practice for me, just learning how to like talk to people and maybe we don't even really speak each other's language that well, and just like learning to communicate with lots of different people and learn about their lives and what durian means to them. So we've kind of used, like one of the things we did was we used durian to explore their beliefs and their culture and what, like all the agricultural stuff around it, like there's so many issues that people are dealing with in different countries about agriculture. And it's very interesting just to kind of learn about that. Like one of the things that always stands out to me is this farm I visited on the border of Vietnam and Cambodia. And it was a guy who had lived through the Khmer Rouge. So it was a man who had lived through the reign of the Khmer Rouge, and he was telling me all about the farm's history. Like it had been a durian farm under the rule of the dictator king before that, and then during the Khmer Rouge, the whole land was taken away from him, and he had to they all farmed all these different durian farms together as private property. And what was really interesting to me about him is there's all these different stories from different parts of the country, but he actually believed that his life was better under the Khmer Rouge, which totally blew me away because I'd been talking to farmers in a whole different part of the country who had been telling me about all these horrible things that had happened to them and their land taken away and starving and durian is sort of interesting. It was a luxury item, and so all of the high commanders were allowed to eat the durian, but nobody else was allowed to, right? You'd see them fall and nobody was allowed to touch them. So you get into all these really interesting stories through talking to people about durian, and I think it was a really good way to do that.
And where did you travel throughout Southeast Asia?
I ended up going to 13 countries and try to list them all for you right now if you'd like.
Sure, or as many as you can remember.
Okay, so we started in Indonesia, and Indonesia is 17,000 islands, so there's a lot to explore there. Then we went to Thailand, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Myanmar, Brunei, Singapore, Philippines. We ended up going to Australia. Australia has a small but growing durian industry. Yes, 10. What am I missing here?
Well, people can visit your website too to find out. Can you share what your website is so people can go and find out what the other countries were?
My website is yearofthedurian.com.
Can you share a few more of your memorable experiences on your journeys on the Durian Trail?
I mean, we ended up doing kind of crazy things to pursue understanding what this fruit is and what it means to people, and all the different kinds. So one of the craziest stories to me is this time that we got invited. We were hanging around this little town in the backwaters of Borneo. And because we're looking for fruits, right, we're always going to rural areas or weird areas where there's no tourists. So we ended up in this small town called Marudi along a river. And the people there were so excited to see us because they just don't get tourists, that they invited us to this political rally. And so we went to this political rally to against the dam that the Sarawak government wanted to build. And then from this political rally, we got invited back to the village. And so we went along with this village because they told us they have these, super ancient old trees that were planted by their grandfathers, 200 years ago. So we went back with them to the village, but to get there, we had to get in a 2.5-foot wide longboat up a river. There's no road to this village. So we get in this longboat and we're heading up the river. And because the rally had gone a little bit late, we were leaving kind of later in the afternoon. And it starts getting dark, and then this horrible storm rolls in. I mean, I have been in rain, but I have not really been in rain like that. And I've never been in rain like that on a 2.5-foot wide longboat. It's dark, and there's these two tiny little old ladies sitting in the front with like one flashlight. And it's all the rain is coming in, from the side. And so we're just like soaking wet. And the whole bottom of the boat starts to fill with a little bit of water. And these two little old ladies are like peering into the darkness on the front of the boat with a flashlight. And logs start hitting the side of the boat because the river is starting to swell. I mean, it's just raining like crazy. And so every time they see a log, they hit one of the sides of the boat, right, to let him know like which way he needs to turn.
Oh my
So they're just like slamming the side of the boat. And eventually it just got so dark and it was raining so hard and the boat was filling with so much water, we had to like pull over to the side of the river and like hang on to these branches. And then the old lady showed us how to like cover ourselves with these like big leaves. But at that time I was just thinking like, is this worth it?
Yeah.
Like, is this fruit really worth this? But then it was definitely worth it. We made it okay, and we had this amazing time in the village, and we ended up hitchhiking back with a boat full of durians. So these people were collecting durians, and we ended up hitching a ride with them back down the river. So it was really one of the most amazing experiences, but definitely something that got me out of my comfort zone.
I bet. Oh my gosh. What an experience to have, especially right out of college, and you're on, just to follow a fruit is so fascinating, I think. I don't know anyone else that's done this.
I feel like I know people who have done, like the Artocarpus people are a little crazy too. The people who are into the jackfruits and the lacuchas and all of that. It's been a really fun world to get into, just to meet all the other crazy travel people who are really into different kinds of fruits, and it's so interesting. And so I've definitely found my niche this way. Going out of college, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with myself, but I found my passion. So that's pretty cool.
That is really great. And for people who are listening and thinking, okay, durian, I want to try one, can you describe the flavor to them? What does it taste like? And I know it's different for each type and each person too.
Right. So one of the most interesting things about durians, and I think the reason why it's different than other fruits, why you can have restaurants that specialize in durian, is that it's a bit like wine, and there are many different kinds with many different flavors. And the flavor actually depends on how you treat the durian. So like if you cut it early before it wants to fall, if you let it sit for a while, there's different ways of eating durian that people can kind of manipulate. And then also the varieties themselves are quite different. And I think that's what makes it more engaging and more interesting than like a pineapple or something like that.
Right, almost like wine tasting.
Exactly. And so you can go to these places in Malaysia where they'll sit you down and they'll serve you a flight, like 5 or 6 different varieties in this particular order. So you start with ones that are like sweet and mild, and you end up with ones that are like pretty like alcoholic or bitter or coffee tasting or things like that. Like there are some durians out there that taste like straight up like whiskey.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Oh my
gosh. And so one of my challenges, as I guess I've become like a durian sommelier.
Mm-hmm.
Or sommelier. How do you say that? Durian sommelier.
Sommelier.
Yeah. So I've basically become like a durian sommelier, and one of my jobs when I'm working on a farm is to help people find the durian that they like, right? The one that will fit their taste buds. And so durians can have different textures. They can be like kind of thick and bready and firm enough that you don't get your fingers messy, or they can be like so soupy that you basically have to scoop them out of the shell. They're just like sloppy, wet, very loose and not very fibrous. So I would say that the basic durian though is sweet, creamy, with a little underlying funk, right? Like a little cheesy, like a little something going on there. And they don't have to be oniony. There's a few particular varieties like the Montong, which is known to be more oniony, and I personally don't care for that one. A lot of people will say that, they're like sweet and onion. It just depends on the variety.
And so some are more savory and some are more sweet.
That's right, yes. And some, like, I like the ones, my favorite in a durian is coffee.
Ooh.
I love the ones that have that kind of like mocha thing going on. That's my favorite. And I would say I don't like the ones that are oniony, and I don't like the ones that are alcoholic. Like, even I have durians I don't like. So
The alcohol ones, it's not that they're fermented, it's just the natural flavor of that variety.
that's right. Yeah, I mean, they can be so fresh, and you just pull them right off the tree, and they just have this taste like rum or whiskey. And working on this farms, I've kind of gotten to know like groups who prefer different kinds, like not to stereotype people, but like Singaporeans love the alcohol ones. Chinese people love the sweet vanilla ones.
The only one I've ever tried was at your talk that I went to at the
hmm
Heirloom Expo, and it was dried. So does that flavor differ from fresh a lot? Is it more pungent or similar?
Yeah, it's pretty different. And that one was also coated in sugar, so it was a little unfair. Did you like it?
I liked it and I tried it, and it was kind of like essential oils. It reminded me of how jasmine oil smells so sweet, but then there is that
Yeah.
underlying funk from the different chemical compounds in it. And it was that same feeling like eating it. It's like, ooh, this tastes almost cherimoya-ish, which was my fruit obsession years ago. But then there's this little kick at the end where it's like, oh, it's kind of like dirty socks, or like not that bad, but a little bit of something that I couldn't quite place. So I'll have to try it a couple more times and see.
Yeah, and there's actually a number of fruits that also have that going on. Like, I don't know if you tried the meringue. I had that dried meringue at
Mm-mm.
there as well. I had two different ones at the heirloom. Well, a meringue, like the fruit itself is pretty large. It's about the same size as a durian, and it's covered in these hairs that are kind of like Velcro.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just like grass blades. They're all stuck straight up from the inside. And so the way that you open it is you just like put your hands on it and like pull it open like you're parting like grass, basically. And the inside looks like a white corn cob. Got all these little slimy, slippery pods stuck to a central core, like a big corn cob. And it's really sweet, but it also has this sort of underlying, almost like gasoline kick to it, which I really enjoy. I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but a lot of us are really crazy about meringue as well.
And I bet it must be fun to meet other durian lovers along the Durian Trail and trade notes and
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And that's actually something that I've started doing is I organize these events, durian events, basically like week-long tours or parties or
and that goes into your work as a Durian Travel Agent. Can you tell us about that?
so people actually, it's been a thing for years before I got on the scene, but people travel to particular areas just to eat durian. And then even certain areas that are known for like one type, like if you go to Bentong, you need to get the B24. If you go to Thailand, you need to get the like Ganyao or like, and the hardest part though is figuring out the exact season because the season varies just a little bit. And because I have so many contacts and I keep in touch with everybody, I turned out I'm a very good networker and I have a lot of friends. So I kind of figure out when all of the different seasons are, and I send people to different places. So people will get in touch with me. They'll be like, I want to go on an adventure. This is the kind of hotel I want. This is the kind of experience I want to have. This is the kind of durian I like. And I'll tell them where to go.
That's great. So you take care of the details so they can just enjoy their durian.
Yeah, exactly.
And your birthday party, I read this online. Your birthday party has actually turned into a durian festival. Can you tell us about that? And can we go?
Yeah, everyone's invited. So, yeah, it's sort of interesting. I started having this birthday party at a farm called the Baosheng Durian Farm in Penang, and my first one was in 2012, and it was just sort of coincidence. It happened to be my birthday, and it happened to be that we were in Penang doing durian stuff for that year of the durian. And so we went to this farm and invited a few friends to go with us, and that was where I had like my first sit down flight of durians, where the guy like served them and explained each flavor, and like we learned so much. And so then the next year happened to be in the same area, and my I thought, well, where do I want to go for my birthday? Oh, I want to go back there. So I invited more friends. And so the group was bigger. By 2014, 3 years into it, when I said, hey, I'm having my birthday here, and I put it on social media, I put it on Facebook, 20 people showed up. And it was like crazy trying to like organize everybody because it's not that easy to get out to the farm. And like the accommodations, I spent like my whole birthday like running around like trying to find people beds
Right.
because all these people showed up. So then I thought, with a friend who was there with me, and we're like, you know what, next year, let's just make this more organized. We'll sell tickets. We'll have it all set up ahead of time, like people's transport, their accommodations. We'll show them all the cool stuff that we like to do in this area. So in addition to eating durian, we go to beaches and go to waterfalls. We go do cultural stuff with like my friends. We learn about different foods and like jungle fruits and herbs and like all that cool like plant stuff that we're all really into. And it turns out to be just a really fun week. So happens every year. My birthday is June 21st. Yeah,
Sounds
hope
great.
to see everybody there.
Yeah, if anyone's listening and they want more information, they can go to your website, which is yearofthedurian.com, and get details on this and other trips, and your book too, which is the Durian Tourist Guide to Thailand. And why did you pick Thailand to focus on, since you traveled to so many countries?
I picked Thailand because Thailand produces the most durian in the world. Currently, the second largest producer is Malaysia. And so most people, I kind of looked at the emails that I was getting. Like, I get a lot of emails from people just asking for advice on where to go, which is kind of how I figured out that this was like a thing. Mm-hmm. Like I was just so shocked. Within like a month of starting my blog, I had hundreds of people reading it. I thought I was the only weird one. But it turns out there's this global community of people like super into durian.
Are any of them Durianarians, which I think I read about online? Have you met any Durianarians? Is that how you say it?
Durianarians? That's sort of a joke.
Okay. I hoped it was. Yeah.
I have met people who have eaten only durian for extended periods of time. I think the longest was 6 weeks. He ate only durian and coconut waters, something like that.
And is he okay?
He's okay. He's not a Durianarian anymore, but I think he enjoyed it for the most part, and eventually got sick of durian and wanted to eat something else.
Yeah. He's like, I've had my fill. Do you still love durian as much as you did when you started out?
I would say my love for durian is different because I find it really intellectually stimulating and really rewarding, helping people. And I still think it tastes really good, and I still get really excited. Like when I got here to Hawaii, the first night I was here, a friend bought me some frozen durian, and I was like, oh, that was really nice of them, but I don't really feel like eating. But then he like opened the bag, and I like smelled it, and I was, oh my God, I really want some now. So yeah, I definitely still really like it, but I think my passion for it has evolved as I've gotten older and matured.
It's the call of the durian. It's almost like you cannot think about it, but as soon as you smell it, it's like, I want some.
Yeah, exactly. That smell is just so intoxicating.
So much of what I read about durian, I was researching last week about it, and it seems like people really have either this, and it makes sense now that you're saying that it takes a few times to get used to it, but it seems sad for durian that it has such a negative rap as far as its aroma.
Yeah, I think it's too bad. I think it's really fun to come up with different ways to describe it because there is no reference in our culture. We don't have anything in America that smells like that. And so trying to like describe all the different characteristics of it is really challenging. And I think we also have it's really fun to put things down. It's really fun to make things seem like more disgusting or like more exaggerate that aspect of it, which I think is too bad because then people going into the experience of tasting durian are expecting it to be really bad.
Right.
And so it becomes kind of psychosomatic.
So I'm curious how durians are grown traditionally and currently. Are they monocrop, like just an orchard of durians? Are they integrated into forests? How do people grow them usually?
There's not really usually. So traditionally they would be just in the forest, as a way to mark your property. So they would be integrated in with like a lot of other like random timber trees and, whatever else is just kind of growing in the jungle. That's more traditional. But then when people moved into actually having gardens, then they would mix it with other fruits. So durian is traditionally grown with mangosteen, which is the queen of fruits. So it's sort of its partner. rambutans, cuckoos, all kinds of native fruits like that. And so it would be intermixed. But as people are moving toward plantation style to send to China, if you'll find this especially in Thailand, it's almost exclusively monocrop. And they've also modified the trees, so the trees are only like maybe 20 to 30 feet tall.
Do you have any thoughts on the durian industry, and are commercial growers like they do here in the States, focusing on a few varieties at the expense of better tasting fruit because they store better and they are more portable? Have you found that to be true with durians?
So there's two things going on with durian right now. Number one is that the Chinese just figured out that they like durian. And since they're a population of, I don't know, like a billion people now, there's this huge market, and everybody's trying to get their durians to China, which means standardization, which durian has a pretty short period of serious domestication. So people are just going with like one durian type or two durian types, and they're just trying to ship them to China, right? So that's like one business model is grow in bulk, grow one or two types and send them to China. The other model that's really growing right now are these boutique durian places. So like a farm that kind of I guess would be like agritourism. So it combines like you go to the farm, you stay on the farm, and you wait for the durians to fall, because it's known that the best durians are the ones that are fresh, right? And the fresher, the better. So if you're sitting under that tree and a durian falls and you're the first one to get it, that's going to be the best durian.
Wow, so that's hard to, then it would seem like shipping them would be really tough.
Shipping them is a challenge. They don't have a long shelf life, and that's partly why a lot of people, when they first buy a durian, they try a bad one. So that if they don't like it the first time, it might just be because it was partially rotten. There's certain varieties that do keep longer, like the Musang King or the Montong has a lower respiration rate, so they do keep longer. And so that's one of the reasons why those ones are being shipped over. But most of them are frozen. Actually, that's the main way. It's frozen.
And that's about probably the only way I have listeners all around the world, but the ones in the States will, Hawaii though, is Hawaii growing durian now? It sounds like it.
They are, yeah, they are. And I don't know if you saw on my blog, but I did have a friend ship me fresh Hawaiian durian to San Francisco, which we had a few days after the Airline Expo at another talk I gave for the California Rare Fruit Growers Association.
That's great. Okay, good. Hawaii. Go Hawaii.
Yeah, I know, right? Like they can totally be supplying fresh durian to the lower 48. So that's something that we're looking into.
Oh, that's great. And what are your favorite, and you may have mentioned a couple of them, but do you have any favorite durian varieties that you would want to share with listeners today?
I always hesitate to do that because I really want people to, like, especially like in Malaysia, there's a lot of hype. People get like hyper focused on like one variety. So I don't really want people doing that. I think it's more important to taste for yourself which ones that you like. And if you read my blog, if you read in between the lines of my blog, you'll kind of figure out which ones I really like.
And then how do you eat and prepare them? So I saw people with rubber gloves on cutting them and eating them. Is there a purpose for that? Is that etiquette, durian etiquette?
Not at all. No. I would say the gloves are even a bad idea if you're actually opening the durian yourself, because you're just going to rip the gloves up on the thorns. So, and I don't wear gloves because gloves, they gross me out. I would much rather just use my fingers. That would be, I would say, mostly like cultural, like maybe the Chinese or maybe people who, I don't know, don't like it for some reason. But usually you just dig in with your fingers. You grab hold of the seed. So even if it's like a really soft one, you'll like reach in until your fingers can feel the hardness of like a big round seed on the inside, and then you just pull it out and eat it.
And do you ever cook durian, or is it eaten raw?
Yeah, you can. Actually, durian, a lot of things you can do with durian. I have a big recipe section on my site. One of the best things is if you get a unripe durian and you cook that, it has the texture and the taste of sort of potato mixed with butter. Ooh. It's super rich. And you can do a lot of things with that, like curries are really good. Just cooking it as a vegetable is really good. French fries. I mean, it's got like a lot of different things you can do with it.
Oh, that's good to know. So you can use them unripe, ripe. And then what about, are there any medicinal qualities to the bark or the leaves that you know of, or seeds?
I know that they used to use it for fevers, like malaria is kind of a problem in that area. So I know the tribal people used to use, I think, the leaves to make a tea to keep fevers down. And I've heard that the roots are good for arthritis, but I don't know much about that.
And then one type of durian that I read about on your blog was the elephant dung durian. And can you explain what that
Oh,
is? And is that is that for real? And did you ever try it?
I haven't tried it. I don't know if it's for real. I don't know if someone's just like pulling a massive joke on me because I'm a Westerner. Um, I think it might be real. So the idea behind the elephant drop durian is that, and we know this part is actually scientific fact. Elephants eat durians. They love durians, and sometimes, for unknown reasons, they will take a durian and they will roll it with their foot around in the grass until it forms sort of a protective layer around the spike, and then they will swallow it whole.
Hmm.
They will take the whole durian, put it in their mouth, and swallow the whole thing whole without chewing. And we don't know why they do that. I haven't been able to find a solution, but I do know that part is scientific fact. What I don't know, whether or not it actually happens, is supposedly people will follow the elephants to watch them do this, and then they will follow the elephant until the elephant defecates the whole durian, and then they will eat that whole durian.
Wow.
And that's sort of like a aphrodisiac. It supposedly costs like $1,000 durian. I don't know if people really do that. You know, there's always stories about timber warlords out where they're doing the deforestation.
Durian does have a lot of stories and myths, right? Like one, and I don't know if this, I think it does have validity. You shouldn't eat durian and drink alcohol.
And that one, I think there is something kind of to. I don't know if you saw, but we did an experiment over the summer where I had a bunch of friends come with me and we ate durian and drank beer at the same time. And then we took our temperatures the whole time to see if it would change your temperature. But there is an idea that if you combine alcohol and durian, you'll die.
Yeah, and there was a study, which I'm sure you're aware of in Japan in 2009, that they
Yeah.
said it inhibits the ALDPH or DH enzyme used by the liver to break down alcohol. So they were saying there probably is something to that idea of
Right, but
durian.
all that would do is it affects how you experience hangovers. So all it would do is increase your hangover if you combine durian and alcohol. But there's all these stories, like people being found alone at their table with, a bottle of whiskey and durian, or, there was a bunch of workers in Jakarta who were found dead of unknown causes with durian and whiskey, and that was all. So there's a lot of stories about this. I think the first one was from 1940. There was a medical report. Probably not a great idea, but I know a lot of people who do it. So none of them have died yet.
What do you think of the odorless breeding program in Thailand for odorless durian? Have you tried one, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, I've had them.
And does it make a big difference with the flavor not to have the aroma?
Well, it's less flavor, obviously. It just makes it sort of sweet and vanilla-y. It doesn't have, and creamy. It just doesn't have that like potency to it that some of us really crave. I've had other odorless durians. That breeding program isn't the only one that's done it, which actually was really helpful for getting my parents to eat durians. So I got to give them some kind of.
It's a good way to get people who may be more squeamish about the aroma to try it.
Right, and the weird thing is like once you try it, you get hooked on it, right? So now my mother, so my parents came and visited me. I gave them an odorless durian. They ate it. They thought it was pretty good. And then when I went back home to visit, and somebody gave me some durian, and even though it was a stinky kind, my mom was like, "Oh, it doesn't smell bad now." Like it had just changed something.
So it's almost like once you put it inside your body, you are then drawn to it forevermore.
Seems like it. I don't know what that would cause that. It's like taking the blue, what is it, Matrix? Take the blue pill or the red pill. Can't go back.
Now, if someone's listening and wants to grow durian after hearing you talk about it and all the
hmm
interesting facts about durian, how do you know how you would propagate it, and what are the requirements? What does it need to thrive?
Well, I actually have a whole post called "So You Want to Plant a Durian," which has a list of all the things that you need if you want to have a durian tree of your own.
And you definitely want it to be warm.
Yeah, so it has to be warm. They can go colder than you would think, but they might not flower. Important things are the moisture of the air. They don't like dry air. Rainfall, they need quite a bit of water. Soil, they don't particularly like acidic soils. They're from granite. They grow in granite soils primarily.
And how long until it bears fruit?
Depends on if you do a graft tree or by a seedling. If you plant from seed, it'll be about 10 years. If you do a graft, it can be anywhere from 3 to 5 years.
And so I think you mentioned this earlier, but how many edible cultivars are available of durian?
Of Durian travel, that one species, I'm not sure, but it's in the hundreds. Thailand has around 230. Malaysia has around 130. Sri Lanka has like 6. Vietnam has a few of its own. The Philippines has maybe 15, which I just put into that guide. I made a Philippines variety guide for anybody who's interested in that. Yeah, there's a lot, but they're not well categorized yet. So I'm interested to see as things keep developing. You know, we're pretty much it's all new, which is partly why it's really fun.
Yeah, it seems really exciting. And you say on your blog that you're using your durian powers to make the world a better place and that durian has made you a happier person. Can you tell us about that?
As far as like trying to make the world a better place, obviously durian is really tied in to agriculture. It's really tied into like healthy ecosystems, like we were talking about bat pollination earlier. So, you know, to get people on board through this thing that they love, like you want to keep durians around, okay, you need to keep your bats alive. You know, like you want to eat healthy, you know, you want to eat durians, you want to be healthy, okay, we need to get more farmers growing organically or using fewer pesticides or actually adhering to pesticide regulations, right? So we're just trying to like do awareness like that through durian, which is really great because I feel like it's something that I can, you know, it's one of my passions is environment and health. So it's just another way to express that and get people interested. And then as far as me being happier, like when I started the durian search, I was really lost. You know, I graduated from college, couldn't find a job. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing with myself. And then to find out this world where there are people like me who are just as nerdy and just as interested in cultures and food and everything, and finding my passion definitely helped. There's been a lot of life lessons along the way too.
So if people want to contact you, can you share your website? And I think you also have durian t-shirts now and you have an app. Could you tell us about those?
Yeah, so my website is yearofthedurian.com, and we've got a lot of different stuff going on there. As far as the community has started to grow, we've had people who just do things like I had this free PDF out about the calendar on how to find different durian seasons, and so there's a guy who just made it into a free app, which is available on the Apple iTunes Store. And so you can just download that onto your phone. You can swipe through it, and it'll tell you, you know, if you want to travel in May, where to go. Or if you want to go to Borneo, you know, which month you should travel in to hit the durian season. So I'm really thankful for him for doing that. That was super cool. And then, yeah, we have some like durian t-shirts out so you can express your nerdiness or express the art form that is durian, because it's a very interesting shape. And I really enjoy the shape of it as well.
So Lindsay, is there anything else I didn't ask you today that you'd want to share with listeners about durian?
Well, there's a lot of different species of it too, so it's not just, you know, one thing. Like it's a rabbit hole. Once you start being interested, you just kind of keep going. So I guess be careful.
Yeah, you never know where they might lead you. The durian.
Right. You might end up, you know, having a durian website and having durian be your job and all that.
If someone had told you that 2 years before you were on your Durian Trail, that this is what you would be doing, would you have been surprised?
Well, I didn't know what a durian was, so yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show. And I hope people will feel comfortable reaching out to me. Send me an email, follow me on Instagram or Facebook.
And it's yearofthedurian.com.
That's right. And you can follow me on Instagram at Durian Writer. WRITER.
Okay, Durian Writer on Instagram.
Durian
that is
Writer.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Plant Report. The Plant Report is produced by Jill Cloutier and is a project of Sustainable World Radio. For more podcasts about plants, permaculture, and ecology, visit our website, sustainableworldradio.com, And you can also find us on iTunes, Facebook, and Twitter. The Plant Report is created for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any health condition. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to thank the plants for everything they do.